Okay, I thought I'd try and lighten up the evening, so I'm going to tell a story about the time I ruined Christmas. Um, when I was 9, Christmas at my house was never the same again. My parents retold this story. My whole family's storytellers. They retold the story every year with the same look of disappointment in their eyes. Um, my parents weren't incredibly strict, but I didn't know that at the time. I really had nothing to compare it to. I mean, I was a kid. But my folks did have one inviolable rule about Christmas morning, like I imagine many families do. We must all go downstairs to get our gifts together. So we'd wait at the top of the stairs, and my dad would go down and make coffee and turn on the lights and make sure Santa hadn't left any doors or windows open or any reindeer poop on the floor. And of course, it would take him forever. And we would wait and wait and wait. Now, I'm not proud of this, but I'm the type of person that you can't tell to do not do something. My wife made the mistake of forbidding me for getting drunk the night before our wedding. And I closed down 4 or 5 bars. Uh, I don't remember how many bars actually. I don't remember much about the next day or anything other than the sound of my wedding vows through the whooshing of blood in my head. I think I may have answered I do to the question, does anyone here know any reason why these two cannot be united in holy matrimony? I'm not sure about that. It could be true. And when I was 9, I was just as obstinate and had even less judgment and self control. So on the Christmas of my 9th year, I awoke before dawn, crept downstairs, opened up all my presents, played with them a little bit, then got bored and went back to bed. 2 hours later, my dad woke up and was very confused by the fact that his 9-year-old son was not knocking on his door in a rush to get downstairs. He was further confused by the mess all over the living room floor. But all became clear when he realized that we hadn't been burglarized and that only my presence had been molested. My parents did not yell. They didn't punish me. In fact, the thing that confused me the most was that their reaction was primarily sadness. And I didn't understand that until I was much older and realized that the best part of Christmas, the best part of giving anyone anything, was the feeling you get when you see the happiness that this giving thing has created. My father would often plant pearls of wisdom on me years before I was ready to understand them. And that day, the pearl was often the anticipation is greater than the realization. Now, I had no idea what he meant by that. But I did have to sit there that day and watch everybody else open their presents and experience their happiness and have it be magnified by the family. And I was excluded from that happiness by my own actions. That year, I got exactly what I wanted. It was the G.I. Joe with lifelike hair and a kung fu grip, and the rescue helicopter so he could save all the other G.I. Joes. Even at 9, I was more interested in saving than fighting. I was a pre-adolescent conscientious objector. But even though I got exactly what I wanted, I wouldn't bring myself to play with it because it was tainted now with with my shame. I wanted a do-over. I wanted to put it back in the wrapper and do Christmas all over again if my parents would just stop looking at me with so much disappointment in their eyes. I crawled up into a little ball and cried like an infant. And I think about this sometimes. And even though the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip is long gone, I do wish I had held on to it. It's worth an absolute fortune now on eBay. But, even though it's gone, the lessons of that day have stayed with me. Like the anticipation is better than the realization. I mean, Steven Spielberg knew that when he made Jaws. I mean, once he showed us what the shark can do to that girl at the beginning of the movie, we anticipated the hell out of that shark. It was so much more terrible in our minds than it turned out to be on the screen. We love suspense, like when Willy Wonka was watching Augustus Gloop being sucked up the pipe. The suspense is terrible. I hope it lasts. I mean, it's why we put the wrapping paper on the gifts, right? To make that suspense last just a little bit longer. In most cases, the anticipation is far greater than the realization. And it is so much better to give than to receive. My parents didn't have a lot of money. They worked very hard for what they had. And I completely destroyed the best thing they got out of spending what little money they had. I robbed them of joy. I've never had any interest in the practice of giving someone a list of things I want for Christmas. The things I want most are the surprise and the joy of the moment. Because that's the true gift. The moment of happiness shared in time. The toys will break. We will break. But those moments are priceless. And we can make them last forever in our stories. Like the ones you've all shared with us tonight. Thank you for making them part of my story.